Let's get to the bottom of this with NBA guy Chirs Broussard. The Detective Broussard is joining us now. This back entrance stuff is nothing but trouble. Okay, first of all, I'll get to the Cavs in a second. Just explain this. Chris Paul's the president of the Players Association. He was going back there to break it up, right?
No, not that I don't believe so. Now, I don't believe any of them were really, truly going to fight. What I was told is they went back there and they were talking trash, but it wasn't like they were really trying to get into the training room, because the entrance to the hallway they went through leads into the Clippers training room. So they were talking, and the Clippers are sitting there listening. But from what I was told, it wasn't like they had to really be held back that tough.
That's usually NBA guys. They're protecting the moneymaker, the face.
Yeah,
they don't want to get hit.
Well, here's an example of how much things have changed. Back in 1999, I was covering the Nets, and Kendall Gill and Steve Smith. Kendall Gill went looking for Steve Smith, who's now on TNT, after a game in the hallway. They got into a fight. Gill punched him a couple times, and each of them got a $2,500 fine. I think these guys, all four Rockets should get a two-game suspension, because I think you have to send a message. The punishment has to be something heavy that's going to deter them from ever doing it again. And Chris should know better, president, as you said, the Players Association. Martin Luther King Day. This was about, Austin Rivers talking trash. I know some players don't like him. To me, this was about Chris Paul being embarrassed and frustrated that he came back here and they lost to the Clippers, a depleted Clippers team.
Yeah. So, it's funny. I've watched all three Warrior Cav games, all three of them. And I thought it was really interesting. Have they played two? Is this the second or was that the third? Are you sure? Have they played 2 or 3 times this year?
2. They only played 2.
Okay, Christmas and last night. So I've watched the games, and my takeaway in both the games, even Vegas had it as a 5-point line. My takeaway is, if you want to be upset with the Cavs, be upset when they lose by 30 to a bad team. But when I watch them play the Warriors, the games turn out exactly like I think. They're competitive. The juice is flowing for the Cavs. The Warriors are not taking them lightly. And then in the end, the Warriors pull away because they have better players. And because actually Golden State's younger, more athletic, and they can play real defense. And last night, the Warriors late played real defense, and the Cavs, the rim gets real small. Whereas the Cavs are an older team, especially in the regular season. They can't batten down the hatches defensively as well. I watched it last night. I got to be honest with you, Chris. If I was a Cavs fan, I was fairly encouraged by it.
No, for where they were, I thought it was somewhat encouraging. First half, they played really well.
Yeah.
For about 2.5 to 3 quarters, they played really well. And then, obviously, Golden State pulled away. I thought LeBron set a good tone. This was maybe the most engaged he's looked on defense.
Yes.
Maybe all season, and especially in the first half, and that's what had the team going. The problem for them was that there is no room for error against Golden State.
None.
And for them, as old as they are, as slow as a lot of their players are, it is very difficult to maintain that level of concentration and just be plugged in for 48 minutes like you have to be against Golden State. And that's why they faded down the stretch.
So this morning, I went back and I had our team of people preparing the show. I said, let's go back 1 year ago and look up the stories about the Cavaliers. And here's what was funny. 1 year ago today, remember, the Cavs had a losing record last year in January. And last year, they were 11-15 in their final 26 games. I think we're forgetting that last January, they were a mess.
Yep.
Okay, and here's what's funny. I went and found a story that was written this week. And it was talking about what happens every year to LeBron since he's come to Cleveland. Let me read this to you, Mr. Broussard. It said, Cavs drama in January has become something of a yearly tradition. It's fairly easy to trace it back since LeBron joined the team in 2014. In 2015, James missed 2 weeks with a bad back and took a mysterious trip to Miami. The Cavs were awful without him. He returned mid-January amid an alleged rift with David Blatt. And James made headlines when he shoved Blatt away from a ref to prevent a technical foul. The optics were not great.
Yeah.
Okay. Last season, January 23rd, James put the front office of the Cavs on blast, saying the team needed more playmakers. David Griffin pushed back and said, we don't need more playmakers. And then this year, once again, Isaiah Thomas, the story out this morning is there's players that are growing disenchanted with it. Could we not? And the article continues and makes a very good point. The article says James is now 33. He competes in April, May, and June. He's a player that's admitted he ramps up his intensity each month, and he's only going by about 80% by his own assessment earlier in the year. So could I just make the argument by Googling a year ago, this is what the Cavs and LeBron are in January? This is kind of what the recipe is.
No, I tend to agree with you. Because of LeBron James and how great he is and how far superior he is to anybody else in the Eastern Conference, I still believe they'll win the conference. I'm a little bit more concerned this year, though, and here's why. I don't believe, and I've talked to a few people around the situation in Cleveland about this, I don't believe the players think they can beat Golden State.
I agree with you.
And the last thing they want to do is go to the finals and get swept or beaten handily in 5 games again. That just can't motivate you. So my concern is that, because yesterday in the first half, they were motivated.
Yes.
It looked like they wanted to try to prove to themselves, okay, can we beat this team? And then they obviously faded, found out they couldn't. I fear that when they get to the playoffs, they may not be able to get their motivation at the peak level like they have in the previous 3 years. You're right. Bad to mediocre regular seasons they've had. Drama-filled, all of that. But each postseason, they felt they could win it. You know, last year, you're the defending champs, so you think you can win it.
Yep.
The year before, okay, Golden State wins 73, but you didn't have Kyrie and Kevin Love the year before, and you almost beat them. The year before that, 2015, the Warriors were the new kid on the block. Nobody knew how really good they were. So every year when playoffs started, LeBron and the Cavs were like, all right, we only won 51 games or whatever. We can win the whole thing. Let's get it going. Let's ratchet it up. Now, with them thinking the light at the end of the tunnel is a 4 or 5 game series.
And this, Chris,
and if they aren't motivated, could they be upset by somebody in the East?
Now, that's an interesting point. That's why I believe, Chris Mannix said this last week, I think they have to make a move. I don't care if it's DeAndre Jordan, Paul George. It's not just for the physical element. It is for the psychological element. I think they have to make a move at February 8th, the trading deadline. I think they have to be aggressive because I don't think their front office, LeBron, their players, I think they all know the truth. Golden State's younger, better, deeper, and will win it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the second part of what I'm hearing out there is the players don't think help is on the way.
Okay, that's key.
Because the Cavs, everyone knows right now their stance is we are not giving up that Brooklyn pick. And here's the thing, and I've talked with Chris Mannix about this and others. That pick right now is tied for 7th, so 7th or 8th pick. However, if you're Cleveland, you're saying this. When we got Kyrie in 2011, that number 1 pick was supposed to be the 8th pick by record. When we got Anthony Bennett, which was a horrible pick, but it was still the number 1 slot, it was supposed to be the 9th pick. So they have had tremendous luck in the lottery as far as getting the pick. So they may be thinking, hey, it's slated 7th, but it happens. We could end up with the number 1 pick. And if LeBron leaves, so the Cavs players, because I'm told that the feeling is that if we don't give up that Brooklyn pick, whatever move they make, if it's DeAndre Jordan or Lou Williams or whoever, it's not going to be enough. One of the only moves out there that would be enough that's somewhat realistic would be if Oklahoma City decides, let's give up Paul George. But you would have to give him that pick. So that's the question in Cleveland.
I would give up that pick in 1 second. There's not a second that I wouldn't give up a college player. By the way, number 1 pick last year. Hey, Goulet, you seen Markelle Fultz shoot?
Well,
I'd give up a number 1 pick in a heartbeat.
Let me ask you this. if you give up the number 1 pick, you get Paul George, and you go to the finals, of course, and lose, and George and LeBron leave, now where are you?
Oh, you know what you are? You have a chance to beat Golden State in the finals. You're Cleveland. Anytime you're Cleveland with a chance to win a championship, 3 words: go for it. Can't worry about the future. I'm sitting around worrying about the future. This isn't Los Angeles. This isn't a sexy, glamorous big market. If you're the Cleveland Browns and you can win a championship, you go for it.
Well, that's the question that they have to answer. And I also think for those players to be motivated in the playoffs, if it takes this, then so be it. But number 1, they have to realize losing to Kyrie Irving and Boston, or not getting as far as them, even if they, say they don't get as far as like they lose to Toronto in the second round or something, Kyrie goes to the finals. That's worse than losing to Golden State in the finals.
Yeah.
I would, if you're clean, I mean, the storylines, and particularly for LeBron, I mean, Kyrie left you. He upstaged, left you, and then he would beat you.
Yeah.
That would look bad.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.